It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Mandy the Martyr. And now, on with the show! Hey everybody, welcome to the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey gang.
And Les Webster.
Oh. Les is on the road this week, so if he fades in and out a bit, we'll blame the Wi-Fi at his hotel.
There you go. So, we do appreciate Les joining us, but yeah, just a little heads up that there may be times he may not be able to understand what he's saying, and so it's Wi-Fi issues. So, guys, how are y'all doing?
Well, I'm doing all right. I got a thing to kind of plug, talk about, whatever. And that thing is actually, this is kind of funny and may prove to be a bit of a long story, but it is a TV show on BBC called No Such Thing as the News. This is kind of one of those Inception type deals, so bear with me. And it starts with a TV show on the BBC called QI, which if you have not heard of it, if you've heard of it, you know what it is. If you have not heard of it, it is basically kind of a faux quiz show type format, which has been hosted by Stephen Fry for a really long time, though he recently retired from it. I think they just finished their 14th season, so it's pretty popular. And basically what it is he or the new host and a panel of four talk about like trivia type facts, which often lead to hilarious consequences because some of them are misleading and some of them are just kind of urban myth type things. And so it gets interesting, and the people on there are really freaking hilarious. And so it's fun. And it's also on the air late at night, so they drop F-bombs occasionally, which you can do on the BBC apparently. But anyway, moving on from there, a show like that needs researchers. And so they have their researchers who they affectionately refer to as the QI elves. Well, a couple of years ago, the QI elves got together and started a podcast, which they call No Such Thing as a Fish. And they basically do kind of the same thing, except they're the researchers, so they're the ones coming up with the facts and explaining them. And they're also, most of them are comedians as well, so it's pretty funny. And you can find that on iTunes or wherever you get podcasts. And it's worth it. It's hilarious. It usually runs 30 to 40 minutes, and it's funny. But so then recently, they were approached by the production team at QI to do a TV show based on their podcast, which started from the TV show. So it gets a little Inception-y there, a little kind of like The Producers. You get the musical based off the movie based off of the musical from the movie, and But anyway, so they actually just finished the 5-episode run, and if you want to take a look, you can actually they have a YouTube channel where they've posted them for those of us who do not have BBC, like real BBC, like BBC Two, not like BBC America or anything. It's on like real British stuff. And I believe if you're curious about QI, you can find episodes of that on Hulu Plus. Although you can also, don't tell anybody, you can find most of them on YouTube, but they're not really supposed to be there. But so it's a really funny show. It's a really funny podcast, and QI is a really funny show. So there you go.
Isn't that one of the podcasts that you said, hey, check this out a while back?
I have more than likely told you about that one before, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if I mentioned it on the show, but I'm pretty sure I've talked about it.
Yeah, not on the show. It was, So it was ringing some bells. And, from what I listened to, it was pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. I may have to check that out. That's awesome.
That appeals to me, too.
Yep, it's called No Such Thing as the News. If you just go to YouTube and type that in, it'll pop right up.
Les, is what's been going on in your world?
Well, the other day you discussed a title with one of your customers by Bob Rosakis. And up here, I decided to check this out to see if I could find a copy. And as a result, although I have not found one, I have found a lot of people that are going, I've got to go find that now. So you obviously can tell us more about it, but it's fascinating that this could be a growing thing too, and possibly more and more people will be involved with this one.
Oh, that is cool. And to what Les is referring to is a book that came out, I guess, about 5 years ago. There was actually a collection of articles that were originally published from Tomorrow's Publishing, who does the magazine's Alter Ego, which chronicles comics from the 40s and 50s and 60s, and Back Issue, which were 70s, 80s, and more recently 90s. And the whole premise is that Bob Rosakis originally approached DC Comics, and he was a writer back in the 70s and 80s, and those who are familiar with those comics back then, he was also known as the Answer Man. People would send in questions like, hey, well, so what was the first appearance of this character, or any other kind of information, just any other kind of question, and he would answer it. And these usually showed up on the Daily Planet little page that they would have in the comics back in the 70s and 80s. He had approached DC about doing a Elseworlds tale, where instead of DC Comics buying out another publisher, which was known as All American Comics back in the early 40s, that the reverse happened. That All American had bought out DC. And essentially what happened was, instead of Batman and Superman being the main figureheads of the publisher, it was Flash and Green Lantern. And it was all told there was this well-established history, and most of how he phrased it was the history of DC Comics was unaffected, except for the fact that it was these two characters that were the face of the publishers, and then during the Silver Age we had a brand new Batman who was Hal Jordan, and then we had a new Superman who was Barry Allen. So it's a really incredible read. It was so cool. It evoked nostalgia, yet it was familiar yet different, and it includes a lot of artwork that were basically takeoffs of familiar covers, except for they were changed to reflect this timeline. And yes, I was telling a friend about it the other day, and he was so interested. He said, I gotta find a copy of this. And obviously Les Les has looked at this before, but apparently I got him interested in reading it again, that he's trying to find himself a copy.
That's what he gets for eavesdropping.
There you go. But it's a great book, and that's cool, because I am Facebook friends with Bob Rosakis, and maybe I need to drop him a line about saying, hey, I mentioned your book, and apparently we're getting more interested about it. So, who knows? It was a self-published book, to my knowledge, but I'll see what we can do about trying to get some information on the website regarding that. And the book's called The Secret History of AA Comics, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a really good read.
Cool.
So, well, that's awesome. One thing I wanted to kind of mention for what's gone on in my world this week, I wanted to do a big shout out to those of y'all who follow Mikey and me saw that we had retweeted a couple of times. This week, Make Mine Indie dropped, and it's for those who don't know, it is a digital catalog that focuses on indie publishers that are not available for ordering through Diamond distributors. These are you can get them either through their websites, either as print or digital. And this week saw the first edition come down, and it's 142 pages, I believe. A lot of publishers that I've never heard of before, and it's not just the titles. I believe in almost every instance there was 2 or 3 pages of previews for that title, as well as links to their website and social media sites, so you can follow them and get more information regarding not only the books that are offered there, but also future projects. So big shout out to Peter Samiti and Alterna Comics, and I will obviously put a link of that on our show notes.
Totally.
And this is not the first time we've promoted it, because we talked about it on our indie show. I looked at that, and there were several of them going, okay, I definitely want to check these out.
There's some really pretty stuff in there. There really was. I was really impressed.
There's a lot of good stories in there, and of course we would never know unless there was something like this. So props to them for doing this, and I'm hoping this is the first of
many.
So good going, guys, and let's see if we can keep this train going.
Hear, hear.
So cool. Sounds like everybody's had a good week. Let's go ahead and get into our topic for today. And I'll go ahead and put a disclaimer. We are in no way endorsing what we're going to be talking about tonight, but
yeah, in the same way that the book that Les was talking about was kind of an alternate history, so is what we're talking about for our topic today.
Yeah. I got the idea from seeing a news item recently about the bankruptcy of Hastings, and the fact that the store chain was slowly moving from music to more to comics, which honestly I did not know. I mean, I knew when I think of Hastings, I still think of a music store, but of course,
I didn't know they had changed either.
But
there's not really one around here either, so
That's true. I mean, the closest one around us would be Greenville or Waxahachie, if I'm not mistaken. But it kind of makes sense because the music industry, basically everything's being moved online, where you can either purchase a CD or just purchase downloads. So the music stores have basically gone away of remembering Musicland and Camelot Music and Sound Warehouse and several others that are no longer with us. But apparently, from what I was reading, they had been making the change to closer to a comic book, or at least carrying more comics, maybe more of a primary than a secondary product. And it kind of brought up the whole thought that's always comes out every couple years or so, was why is there not a national chain of comic stores? And I've read some stuff along the long years of people suggesting that, and I remember reading one saying, well, Disney owns Marvel, so Disney has Disney stores. Why aren't they doing that? And the thing is I don't know. I don't know if there's even Disney stores around anymore, or if they are, I don't think is there any. I don't know if there's any here in North Texas, but I could be mistaken.
Yeah, I know there's one in the mall up here by me.
Okay.
I would assume that there are at least a few more around.
Okay. as quickly as that idea was thrown out in this one that I remember reading a while back, it was saying, well, but it would only be Marvel, so what's going to happen with the other publishers? Then they mentioned the possibility of Diamond, since it's a distributor, that they would do it, and yeah, I kind of frown on that idea. But can there be a national chain of comic book stores, or should there be? There's regional. I mean, here in the North Texas area, we had Lone Star for 35, 40 years,
Quite a
something
while.
like
Yeah.
before they were all either closed down or sold off, and now it's just the online store known as My Comic Shop, which has been successful for so many years. But there is still a local regional chain here called Collected, which is about 5 or 6 stores.
Yeah, and I don't think Lone Star ever got more than about 6 or 7 stores anyway.
Right. So a national chain, could something like that succeed? What are your thoughts, Mike? Should there be?
Well, as far as whether there should be or not, uh, I don't know. It depends. I mean, I think it's based on, you even already mentioned it. I think the key factor here is distribution. If it's going to work, it either has to work with Diamond or it has to work independently. There has to be somebody's going to have to build a separate distribution system from Diamond, because right now Diamond is, and I am almost afraid to use this word on the air in description of it, Diamond's kind of a monopoly. They pretty much are who you deal with if you want to buy comics.
Yeah.
Pretty much across the country, as far as I know. So clearly they are the distribution system for comics in this country right now. The only way a chain is going to succeed is if they can either work with Diamond or build their own distribution system, which is bloody expensive, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as working with Diamond goes, I would wonder, my big question there would be, how would Diamond handle dealing with that? Could you place a centralized order and have every store be shipped to individually based off of a centralized order, or would each store have to order their own stuff and pay for their own stuff separately? Neither one seems to me like a particularly good idea from a business sense. And this is, I mean, don't think for a minute that we're going to go all business economics on you here, but there's just not. It does. I don't think it would make sense for Diamond to do it that way, and it's not like a chain could order a bulk order from Diamond, receive it, and then distribute it internally. I don't think there's time in the usual schedule for that, and based on weekly schedules, weekly shipments. I mean, so they're pretty much going to have to go door to door to the publishers to basically build their own distribution system, which it seems prohibitive to me. I don't know. It seems like that would be really hard and really expensive.
Yeah, even if they worked out a deal with Diamond, I would still think it would have to be basically store by store, having to order. Because I can't see anything. Because you mentioned it, timing issue. Even you know.
Yeah,
if
shipments are showing up on Tuesday morning as it is. You mean you're not going to have time to redistribute after that?
Right. Yeah, not in time for a Wednesday opening, or even a couple hours into the business day, and get everything up on the shelves and stuff pulled for subscribers or special order and that kind of thing.
Right.
That can be a nightmare.
Right, and especially if, I mean, you pretty much they have to all be within driving distance of the distribution center. Plain
Right.
and simple. They can't be more than about 50 miles away. So you're looking at a very small area, which means a small number of stores, which means not a big chain.
Right. Les,
Well,
what's your thoughts?
even if you ran it as a franchise, are you expecting the franchise to purchase everything that Diamond puts out. Because I can see where if Diamond were to open their own stores, and even as a franchise, they would probably make sure that every store carried at least 3 copies of everything put out that month. That's a lot of comics. That's a lot of space. You're looking at a warehouse of back issues for a place like that, the size of a civic center. Because in 3 months, you're going to have so much stuff that, in fact, it would probably have to be shipped in. All the back issues would have to be shipped in from other stores so it can be stored in one central location. Of course, from that central location, you could also sell online, sell back issues online that way to cover or have those available for redistribution to the franchises. But as far as a chain store, I'm not really believing it's feasible. What you have now, essentially, is mom and pop stores or small stores that are a franchise for the distribution of comics. Although they don't share in the overall profits of the distributor, they are the ones that get the comics out there. I'm just not seeing where a chain store is going to do anybody any good. I just try to think of some of the stores that do have multiple locations. There are some here in Dallas. I'm thinking one of the biggest is Mile High. They have distribution. They have, I believe, 3 locations in the Denver area. But if you want something, you can go online to get it from there. You can go online to get it from Midtown Comics, another large chain or large store or series of stores. But to try to cross the nation, that's too difficult. That's too hard. That's just not viable. I'm sorry to say it. It would be nice to be able to walk into any one of the stores and have just about the same layout, so you know what you're looking for is going to be at this particular location.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It just the logistics are just as way things are right now. It just, I don't know. At the very least, would be a nightmare. I would think it would be practically impossible. It would be, to a certain degree, it would be cool, but even then, you still have, you talk about the stores kind of having a uniform look. I to a degree, I agree, but they've got to tailor that particular store toward their customers. If they know that these certain titles and then these certain toys or collectibles, this is what's going to sell, then you got to make sure that you got that in, and then the ones that are not going to sell, hey, they may work at another location, so they get those. Otherwise the store is not going to be as successful as it could be.
When I'm looking at it, which would be easier to run, a franchise or a chain? And when I say a chain, I'm looking at a J.C. Penney versus a McDonald's franchise. Which would be easier to run? I would say that it's going to be the franchise. The franchise is going to be able to see to their customers a lot easier than a chain does.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true whether you're talking about comics or anything else. I mean, you're going to get a more customer-centric approach from an Ace Hardware, a franchised Ace Hardware, than you are from a huge chain box store, Home Depot. an idea I think might be interesting, and again, we're bouncing off into alternate history here. This is completely science fiction. But you talk about franchising. What would happen if you could manage to franchise something across the country? As in, you said you would either buy into or establish separate, essentially franchised comic shops in a significant number of major metropolitan areas. You'd set up a couple in each of in major cities like New York, Boston, Atlanta, Chicago, St. Louis, Kansas City, Dallas, Phoenix, Denver, Salt Lake City, Las Vegas, up and down California and the Pacific Northwest. I mean, even if you could just do 2 or 3 stores in each of those areas, that's a lot of stores right there. At that point, you could maybe consider, again, setting up your own distribution system for it, sidestepping Diamond, going straight to the publishers and saying, hey, we would like to buy enough stuff to make it worth your while without going through Diamond. And that would be an interesting way to go, because then you get to look at, okay, what kind of deal does Diamond have with these publishers? And that anything we say on that is pure speculation. So there's just no way for us to know, because that's corporate level stuff, and we're just a few guys. But I mean, I can't even see starting to set up a distribution system without having established the stores that you know are going to be buying stuff from you already, right?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Would it be worth it though?
That's the catch right there.
Or as a consumer, would it be worth it to see a chain or a franchise series for a comic book store? I know that Hastings, and I'm with you guys, I always thought Hastings was a music store. I had heard that they carry special variant covers for some comics, but I didn't know exactly what was going on there. So, and going back to that question, would it be worth it as a consumer to have something like that?
Well, I think that depends on essentially on what kind of deal that new distribution system can get from the publishers. It has to be the equivalent of what Diamond's doing. I mean, you can't if you can't start off with the same deal or a better one, then it's probably not worth it. You're probably going to lose money. Because I mean, I don't know about Diamond's profit margins. Again, we are not corporate lackeys for Diamond or any comic book publisher. But the only way you're going to even, I mean, you have to match whatever the mom and pops are doing through Diamond, or improve on it, or you're not going to draw customers away. Because at that point, at the point where you've got franchises set up in every major city, it becomes competitive. And one way or another, you're competing. You're either competing individually with all the mom and pops, or you're competing with Diamond. And I don't know of any other way you could do that. So you're gonna have to have at least as good a deal as Diamond, and I don't even know if that's possible, you know.
I agree. Yes, I agree there. Your profit margin would increase if you can get a viable deal with Diamond, or a viable deal with the publisher on the level of Diamond, or even a little less, depending on the volume that you're going to toss out there. Maybe they would see your franchises or your chain as a way to promote their comics and get them out there just as fast as Diamond does. There would be a difficult task for both your chain and the publishers themselves.
Yeah.
Right, because if they start making deals with somebody other than Diamond, then Diamond's probably going to they're probably going to notice if nothing, and just to put it mildly, and they might not like that, and so they might alter the deal, as it were. And who knows? I mean, I don't know. I don't want to paint Diamond as Darth Vader here, but like I said, it becomes a competitive situation, and you'd have to be prepared to treat it as such.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared to deal with whatever blowback comes from that.
So I think we're all in agreement that realistically this would never happen. But let's spend a little bit more time in that sci-fi world.
You say never. I say let's sick either Richard Branson or Elon Musk on it.
Well, that's a good point.
Because one of those guys could figure out a way.
Yeah, maybe never is a strong word, but it's difficult. I think that would be a good word. But going back to that alternate world, would it be cool to see that, or would you still prefer to go to the mom and pop? Because, well, first of all, to me, I mean, I've shopped everywhere, but I do like the smaller stores because more than likely when I walk in, they're gonna know me by my name, and yes, hey, hello, hey Norm, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
But hopefully they would know my taste, and so they can suggest stuff that, hey, you may not have heard about this. Would more than likely unless it's a franchise. I can't see it as I don't see it as possible as a chain to have that kind of familiarity with the customers and be able to give that kind of service unless you do enough asking the right questions. Okay, what are you looking for? What's your likes? What's your dislikes? And that kind of thing. So,
Right, actual customer interaction.
Right.
Which you don't always see at the chain stores you have now.
Right.
Have you ever tried to get the attention of one of those guys at Home Depot? Holy crap. It does not friggin' work.
Oh, I usually get someone's attention when I start trying to climb up on their ladders, but and I'm not advocating doing that.
Oh,
I'm just
no.
saying
That's
I'm not.
dangerous.
But there are ways to get people's attention, but they're not always the safe thing.
Why are you climbing up on that ladder? The podcast told me to. Yeah, no, we did not tell you to. Jesus, people, think for yourselves. No, I'm kidding. I kid.
I like you. I kid. Yeah. Is that something you would like to see, or would you just prefer it be a little bit more of a regional mom or mom and pop? I mean, in this world that we've painted, would it be cool to see something of a franchise, or let's just hey, everything is fine as it is right now, and let's move on?
I think it might be interesting to see what happens to the pricing structure if a little competition was injected into the situation, because that's usually what happens. And I'm, again, not an MBA here, but a lot of times you'll see, once you see competition, you'll start to see price wars as entities are trying to compete for customers. I also agree with you that I think that customer service would probably suffer because it often does, and I joke about it, but
It's a fact of life. I mean, and it's not just just go into any big chain store. If and of course I'm preaching in the choir here, even to our wonderful listeners. I'm sure they've gone into stores and spent 20 minutes trying to find someone because they're looking for a particular item, and it doesn't have to be comic books. I'm talking about just a retail store. Yeah, I don't want to mention any names and throw anybody under the bus, but that's just a fact of life, unfortunately.
right, it's hard to get people to care for minimum wage as much as the guy who owns the place will care.
Yeah,
plain and simple, human nature. But yeah, I kind of think it would be interesting to see. I mean, We can speculate all day long, but I think it would be fun to see how the competition at that distribution level would make a difference to the industry across the board.
Personally, I think it'd be a sensory overload. Coming into a store, seeing all of these titles, and come back the next month and seeing different titles in those positions. That I could not take. I prefer the personal attitude of the smaller store. There are some here, like Thomas gave mention earlier. They may have 3 or 4 stores around, yet I still feel welcome when I walk in. That's not to say that a franchise or a chain would not be friendly, but a big store has a tendency to make me think that I'm very insignificant. I have my $4, hopefully enough change for tax with it, and I can move on. And they're happy that they made a sale, and the door is open for someone else then. I want somebody to talk to me and introduce me to a new title, or let me tell them about something. For me, that makes a big difference. I would say it's possible that we'll have a chain and or franchise system, but I don't know that a nationwide item like that is going to hold up. Some places have difficult time going to different cities in their own state, and they're considered small stores, but they have a tendency to carry a lot of merchandise. And of course, every month that merchandise turns over, and that to me, at those stores, makes my head spin, because all of a sudden something different is in that slot.
Well, yeah, just with comics, just like anything, there's always something new to sell. And so, yeah, they're going to move things around to emphasize, possibly even overemphasize the new thing. But I mean, the comics industry's been doing that for 50 years anyway.
Very true.
And let's be honest, Les. It's not your eyes or your head; it's your wallet.
Well, yeah, there is that too.
There's that too.
And my blood. I can only sell so much blood to pay for my comics.
There you go. That's right.
As long as that's the only bodily fluid you're selling, we're good.
Yes, that's it.
Wow. There's that 5'10" again.
Hey, at my age, blood is it.
Aye, aye, aye. Okay, unfortunately, I apologize for opening that door. But anyway.
Well, you know what? That's probably a good point. Let's stop this conversation and move on to weekly picks. How about that?
Yeah, once we've gone there, it's time to go on to the next segment.
Alrighty, guys. So when we cut...
This segue brought to you by...
There you go. So when we come back, we'll do our weekly picks. And we are back, and it's time for our weekly picks, and I am leading off this time. I've got, for my first choice, from DC Comics, it is Green Arrow, A Celebration of 75 Years. I've been enjoying these collections that they've been putting out the last couple years, celebrating the history of their characters. Some of the characters, they've done one for Superman, Batman. The most recent ones were Flash and Shazam and Justice Society. So it's now Green Arrow's turn. So what they usually do is they'll pick a couple stories from the different decades, and it's kind of interesting to read and see how the character has changed over the years. So I'm kind of excited about that. I usually enjoy those a lot. My second choice is Hillbilly #1 from Albatross Funny Books, and it's written and illustrated by Eric Powell of the Goon fame. And the whole premise is a figure man goes into wooded hills of the Appalachian Mountains and encounters fairy tale like creatures and all. But this is Eric Powell, so it's not going to be as straightforward as that. So the cover looks very interesting. I like the premise, so it's going to be an interesting read. I can't wait to get my hands on it.
The cover is amazing.
Yeah. Am I not right, Mike? It does, just the cover alone goes, okay, this is not going to be as straightforward as it sounds.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, the description and the cover are just there's something going on there.
There's something that there's something that they're not telling us.
Oh yeah,
which is great because we don't need to know now.
Absolutely.
There's enough here to go. Okay, you're either interested or not interested, and yes, I'm interested.
I agree there, and with Eric Powell, there's going to be a twist in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I also feel, I believe we discussed it earlier, that there's going to be some comedy in there with Eric Powell.
Yeah.
Just look at his series, The Goon.
I think there's a really good chance of that.
Mm-hmm. What you got, Les?
Well, I'm going to give up 2 DC titles. The first is the Justice League of America Omnibus, Volume 2. This is the reproduction or the reprint of issues 31 through 76 of JLA, and the famous, or one of my favorite stories, Mystery in Space 75, with Adam Strange and the Justice League. You're looking at 47 comic books in this volume. And these are big volumes, but they are so much fun to read and look back at the first appearances of people like Felix Faust, Dr. Light, and some others. My second choice is going to be the DC Superhero Girls trade paperback called Finals Crisis. This is by Shea Fontana and Yancey Labatt. If you picked up a copy of DC Superhero Girls on Free Comic Book Day, this is the continuation of that story. And just what I read in that 30-page book was enough to make me say, yeah, I do want to read this one. They take the characters and make them high school students. So you have Supergirl, Wonder Woman, Bumblebee, and several others right there in a high school, and they're facing their finals for the school year. And that's the whole idea of what's going to be going on. I do recommend this one. Mike?
Well, I was going to say something here real quick. First of all, nice nod with the title, Finals Crisis.
That is good. That is cute.
That's nice play on DC's history. If I'm not mistaken, this is also based off a cartoon as well. I did enjoy the Free Comic Book Day offering. It was cute. So if the rest of the book is like that, yeah, it would be a fun read. That's definitely one you could anybody can pick up and have some fun with. Although no one has yet explained to me if this is Superhero Girls, why Harley's there, since she's not really she's not a hero, but okay. But that's just me.
Potato. She's popular.
Yeah, well, I know that's the reason why she's there.
She's a hot property.
I know.
So to speak.
Mikey, what you got?
All right. I actually have a couple of IDW books this week.
That's right. No Image. It's IDW.
It's
Image.
IDW all the way here. Yeah. I don't want to leave IDW out. And besides, I mean, they're putting out a bunch of books this week, and B, they're putting out some really good books anyway. So, and my first one is a book entitled Hot Damn. We're on issue 3, and it is a 5-issue run. It is written by Ryan Ferrier and drawn by Valentine Ramon. And the main character is a fellow by the name of Teddy Graham. I kid you not. And Teddy is the kind of guy who likes to live fast and die hard. And he did. And he's in hell now. And he's starting to get the hang of it at this point. It's not, I mean, his version of hell appears to be group therapy, but you know, he's getting used to it, and he's making friends, including with Satan himself. And of course, it's never going to be all that simple. So there's other stuff happening around him, and it's really fun. And the art is the kind of thing. It's the kind. This is the kind of series. This is the kind. These issues are the kind of thing that you want to read it once for the story, and you've absolutely got to go back and flip through it again and just look at the art, because there's just so much stuff in there. It is just unreal. And I mean, I end up laughing harder at the backgrounds than I do at the story most of the time with this book. It's just amazing. Not to say the story's not funny. The story is hilarious, but the art is just amazing. My second pick is Mars Attacks Occupation. This is issue 4 of 5. This is written by John Layman and drawn by Andy Kuhn. And now the deal here is, don't let the title fool you too much. Yes, it is Mars Attacks, and yes, that was an absolutely insane Tim Burton movie several years back. This is actually the story of a young woman who is in a completely apocalyptic situation, and she is doing what she can to fight back. And in her case, that involves basically gladiatorial combat. And so it's actually a really kind of moving story, and it's not the silliness you would expect if all of your experiences with Mars Attacks is the movie. Don't even pay any attention to that, because this is a really good story, and it has very little. I mean, the Martians are there, and they look just like they look in the movie, but it's not the same. It is a more gritty, more realistic story than that, and I really highly recommend it.
Very cool, very cool.
Does this strike you as being something coming out about the same time as Independence Day?
You might think that at first, but they've actually been sort of trickling out Mars Attacks series
for a
little
years.
while. Yeah,
Yes.
this has been going on. It's not like this is, oh, let's rush this out to capitalize on 94. No, they've been doing Mars Attacks stories of varying levels of like comedy and seriousness for a year or two at least.
Sure.
This just happens to be a good one. I mean, not that the others weren't good too, but this is a really, really good one.
Yeah.
Surprisingly good.
Be looking for it then.
And the cover artist on this particular issue is John McCrae. So
Woohoo.
There you go. It's a pretty cover.
Cool. Good choices all around. Any shout-outs before we wrap things up today, besides our usual?
What was that book we were talking about? What was the name of it? The one we wanted to shout out. The one from the Con Man thing.
Oh, yes,
Spectrum.
Conman Spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah, Conman Spectrum. The first issue comes out next week as well.
Yeah. The Free Comic Book Day bit we got for that was really nice. So this is worth checking out.
Yeah, for those who are unaware, Spectrum is from the online show Con Man that starred Alan Tudyk and Nathan Fillion. And Spectrum was the TV show that their characters played on before. So so essentially the comic book is based off the TV series that's mentioned in the online series. And I hope everybody understood what I just said.
Yeah, don't try to repeat it because
Yeah. No, because I'll probably screw it up. So that's best that I don't.
Get your program right here, folks.
There you go.
it'll make sense in the show notes, right?
Oh yeah.
Theoretically.
In theory, yes. Yeah, I did like the Free Comic Day offering. So this might be a very interesting read. So, any particular shout outs before we do our usual shout outs?
Nothing from me.
No, I'm not thinking of anything unusual.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and do our usual shout outs. First off to our lovely Pottern family, hashtag Pottern family, who's been circling the word of the fellowship on Twitter all these months that we've been doing this. Thank you guys so much for doing that, and we're doing our best to return that love.
Right, because there are some really cool shows out of those guys. So
yes, there's some very good shows. Some very interesting topics. Some of them were interesting, and some of them like,
Let's
okay.
just say it's a wide array of topics and ideas and shows there, and leave it at that.
I'm not saying anything's bad. I'm just,
oh no,
some
of them are really a hoot.
Yeah, some of them are very unique. I'll just say. No, I don't want to bash anybody. I don't want to bash. No, I'm not bashing anybody.
Oh, some of the strange ones are some of the best too. I mean,
that's true. So thank you guys for doing that. And of course, we got to shout out to Manny the Martyr, who's provided the awesome music that you hear at the beginning and at the intermission and end of our podcast. Thank you guys. Joel's a friend of ours for many, many years. He's the drummer of the band, and thank you guys for letting us be able to use that music for our credits. Thank you guys so much. And of course, last but not least, listeners, thank you. Thank you for downloading the episode. Thank you for listening. We always want to hear what you have to say, good, bad, or indifferent. Please, we encourage you to write reviews, whether it's on iTunes or Stitcher, Google Play. All the links will be on our show notes. We have links on the website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. We always want to hear what y'all have to say, because we do want to know.
You know what? If you have any other ideas about the franchise concept we're talking about earlier, shoot them to us.
Yeah.
Throw in your 2 cents. Tell us what you think. Tell us we're nuts. Tell us we've completely missed the point. Tell us what you think would happen if there was competition in that world. It'll be fun.
Yeah, we're always welcome to continue a conversation that we had from our previous episodes. If there's something you say, hey, y'all didn't think about this, what about this? Or you guys got this wrong, and this is the reason why. And that's fine. We definitely want to hear. We definitely want to hear from y'all, and we do thank y'all for spreading the word of the fellowship. I mean, thank you. Well, definitely. We love you guys. If you're not following us, please do. We are on Facebook, the Fellowship of the Geeks. We are also available on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Mikey has a page at Mikey Geek, and I have one as well at TomTCGeek. You can shoot us emails at email@thefellowshipofthegeeks. And, of course, there's a contact us page on our website as well. Please, please, you got something you want to tell us? We are more than happy to listen to what you have to say. I think that's pretty much it. Anything else, guys?
I think you nailed it.
Okay. Les, do you have anything else before we sign off?
Nothing I can think of, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for calling in today, Les. Jeez.
Yeah,
You
thank
could
you,
very
Les.
easily have blown us off this week, and that would have been okay, but you didn't. What a trooper.
Woohoo! Thank
Back
you,
to salt mines.
Mm-hmm.
sir. Once again, gang, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. Please continue spreading the word of the fellowship. It's greatly appreciated. And until next time, read more comics and support your local stores. We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,